Welcome back to Dunstan Kiwi Bred. We return this week to Windsor Park Stud, where resident sire Guillotine's beginning to stamp his mark on the New Zealand breeding industry. I caught up with Windsor Park's Steve Till to talk about the rise of the son of Monsieur. Steve, Guillotine's progeny really stood out from the pack last season. Angelica Hall, 3-year-olds Daniel, Beauty's Beast, Beauty Shine, all getting wins on the board. Have those results vindicated the decision to get him here to Windsor Park?
Oh, absolutely. They, when we select a stallion, we look for certain attributes and he had all those requirements and the talent that we look for. So we've got high expectations here, and he's fulfilling those now. His oldest are only 3, but they've shown a tremendous amount of talent, and they look very progressive horses that'll train on, and they've done that from 2 to 3. So he's got an exciting season ahead of him.
Steve, given the quality of his book over the last 5 years, how sweet are his progeny's race results?
Well, they're up to expectations. You've got probably leading the way has been Beauty's Beast in Australia, who was a very good horse here that we took to the Sydney Easter Carnival and won a stakes race on their feature day there. So that was a big fillip for him in his book, and that's been backed up by very smart horses here like Angelica Hall, and this season's leading 2-year-old filly Steel Rose. As well, he's got horses like Daniel up in Singapore that ran second in the Singapore Guineas, and then subsequently has won his last 2 starts, and he looks an exceptionally talented horse. So yeah, lots of his progeny to look forward to.
Guillotine, he was a Group 2 winner on the track himself. What attributes do you see him passing on to his offspring?
Yeah, he's a very dominant stallion, and of course we stood his father Monsieur here at Windsor Park. Like Monsieur, he's a pure breeding bay. He's a bit more of a more substantial horse than Monsieur was. Physically, he's a robust, very well balanced horse. He made $300,000 as a yearling, so that's an indication of the quality and style of horse that he is. Before he was bought and raced in Australia. So he's a correct horse, very appealing type of horse, and he's been very well supported throughout his seasons at Windsor Park. We actually, when we purchased him, he arrived very late in the piece. I think we announced him in September, which is very late to announce a stallion, but he got just over 100 mares in his first season, and that's continued on through his books, and of course now his progeny racing successfully. He's going to serve another very solid book of mares again this season. He's already got over 100 mares going to him now, so we'll obviously look at closing his book if he gets to that level. It won't take many more mares to get to that level, and at the fee level that he's at, this is the time of the year when the breeders tend to book into those the sort of stallions at that fee level. So yeah, very, very, very satisfying to see him get that support and the quality of mares.
In the past, his service fees sat around the $8,000 mark. What was behind the decision to raise it this season to $12.5?
Essentially, that we raise the fees once they prove to be successful. That's from I was here when Starway started at Stud, and then all the stallions we've had since then, the successful ones like Karpstad and Thorn Park, Volksrad, Monju High Chaparral, we've tended to increase their service fees once they become successful. That underpins everything really. So when we send them to Stud, we set the fee at what we feel is a very realistic level to get the sort of support that we'd like for the horse. We keep it at that level until the progeny race, and then one way or the other they'll either go up or perhaps stay the same for a little bit but then increase. So yeah, he's done a very good job. He's been accessible to all breeders at that level that he stood at, like you say, at sort of between $7,000 and $8,000, and now he's gone to $12.5. And I think if the support that he's getting in the market is any indication, then we've set him at a level again that the breeders are very happy to support.
There's a lot to look forward to this season, with some very promising types resuming on the track for Guillotine. Well, it's time for Kiwi Bred abroad now, and something a little bit different this week as Kiwi Bred headed to the Hunter Valley to check out how current New Zealand Horse of the Year Dundeel is settling into his new role at Arrowfield Stud in Australia.
The picturesque Arrowfield Stud in the Hunter Valley is now home to champion racehorse Dundeel after stud principal John Massara secured the stunning New Zealand bred entire for stud duties late last year.
The Australian stallion ranks have been characterised by speed up to this moment, and I guess that's been our strength. But it's a little bit our weakness too, because a lot of the great races in Australia are over staying distances, and yet we didn't have high-class staying stallions. We took the view over the last year or two that we would try and acquire one or two really high-class stallions, but horses that had a turn of foot which made them capable of winning even over the shorter distances of 1200. You know, you need that in Australia. You can't have an out-and-out stayer. You need a horse that can stay but also can win perhaps at weight for age up to a mile. And this was such a horse. We're looking constantly for stallions that we feel have the capacity to be successful, and for sire lines that we think will blend well with our broodmare band here and in Australia generally. And we felt Dundeel was such a horse. He was so impressive in that Triple Crown that you couldn't help but notice that he was a horse with an X factor. And from there on, we started keeping an eye on him until September last year, where we got serious with the Kiwi owners of Dundeel and arrived at a transaction.
In his 3-year-old year, Dundeel embarked on a history-making Australian campaign, securing the Group 1 Spring Champion Stakes in only his 5th race day start. He returned to Sydney in the autumn and added the Group 1 Randwick and Rosehill Guineas to his haul before dominating his opposition in the Group 1 Australian Derby.
That classic win, the style with which he did it was amazing. The style, he just walked over the top of them. It was fantastic to watch. And we saw him do that 2 or 3 times. But the win in the Randwick Guineas was also very important because it showed he could win a Group 1 at a mile. I have a view, personally, that he could have been trained to win a Group 1 over 1200. I think he could have been a Newmarket horse, a July Cup horse. I think he has that turn of foot and that speed to enable him to do that. You could see that in track work in the mornings. He could run incredible fractions. He'd break 11 seconds quite easily in the mornings.
Dundeel returned as a 4-year-old in Melbourne and was successful at weight for age in the Underwood Stakes, downing the unbeaten mare of the moment, Atlantic Jewel.
From It's a Dundeel and Diademi down past the 200 and Atlantic Jewel. She's got a fight on her hands here. A neck in front of It's a Dundeel coming at her. She's fighting on. It's a Dundeel getting to Atlantic Jewel. They come to the line and It's a Dundeel nailed her. Beat her right on the wire.
His win at weight for age was super important, and beating that filly who had hitherto been unbeaten was very special. And that was an out-and-out ding-dong battle all the way up the straight. There really were no excuses for either party. That was fantastic, and I think that finally, sealed it for us all.
In the autumn, during the inaugural running of the championships in Sydney, in his final race day appearance, Dundeel claimed the top prize, the Group 1 Queen Elizabeth Handicap.
It's a Dundeel, it's setting it after the Royal Colours. It's Carlton House in front. It's a Dundeel 3 away. Another 3 lengths then to Silent Achiever. And then came Sacred Falls. Carlton House is still in front. It's a Dundeel is closing in with every stride. And then Sacred Falls. But on the outside, It's a Dundeel has run to the front. Sacred Falls is coming after him. He's coming fast, but It's a Dundeel is hanging on grimly. He peaks when it counts. It's a Dundeel beats Sacred Falls and Carlton House.
Winning the Queen Elizabeth was very special for me because I was involved in the genesis of the championships, and the Kiwi 2 was going to be the international race that we would draw international players at. We didn't manage to draw the players into that one. We drew them into other races, the Sprint and the Doncaster, although I can't tell you how hard I worked to try and get some of the overseas players. But to win that was very, very special. And for it to be rated as high as it has been is also an important validation of what we've done.
He retired with 6 Group 1 victories from a mile to 2,400 metres and over $5 million in stakes. As a racehorse, Dundeel displayed an intimidating toughness, courage and a tremendous will to win.
I think he was just such a natural athlete, capable of reeling out extraordinary fractions when necessary, and a wonderful acceleration. He had an X factor, and you can't take that away from him.
Alongside his phenomenal racetrack performances, Dundeel also boasts a terrific pedigree. He was bred in New Zealand by Hawke's Bay couple Murray and Joe Anderson, by High Chaparral out of Zabeel Mere Star Reel.
There are 3 very significant things about his pedigree. One is he's by a son of Sadler's Wells. Sadler's Wells is one of the most important influences of the Northern Dancer line. We've got Zabeel and we've got Star Kingdom on the dam side, 2 of the most significant horses in our part of the world in the last 50 years. Those 2, added to Dane Hill, are the 3 horses that have left the biggest mark. So he has a wonderful brew of prepotency in there. His grandmother was a Filly of the Year. She was an Oaks winner. He's got a lot going for him.
Dundeel offers the complete package, including a wonderful physique which has attracted breeders across Australasia.
I think people will be surprised just how athletic he is and how masculine he is. He's not massive, but he's medium-sized. I think he's a very attractive package, and he's got that Northern Dancer look about him. I'm thrilled with him, and Australian breeders have taken to him, and so have Kiwi breeders too. We've got a very, very strong book to him in his first season.
His service fee has been set at $27,500 Australian dollars, and he has attracted an all-star lineup of mares, including Miss Finland, Rex is a Star, Alberta and Shani Rose.
We pitched him at an economic price. We took the view, although people expected him to be at a high level, that we'd pitch him at a fair value where people couldn't help but make money out of breeding to him. And that way we'd have a choice of mares, and it's worked out that way. We've got close to 150 mares, which is more than enough for a first season stallion. The syndicate itself, ourselves, we're sending him some great mares. This horse is going to get an absolute top chance of making it. He's going to be a success because he's got all the attributes himself to be a success, and we're doing all that we can within our power to help him get there.